Good morning, good evening, and good night, wherever you are, and welcome to Requiem for London Chronicles, the City of Martyrs, Chapter 2. And we begin our scene at Treadwell's, the infamous and historical bookshop of London. We go past its cobble steps, its stony surface towards the shop itself, somewhat engaging, somewhat friendly, at the same time secured, barred, and heavy. The structure itself, Victorian. Gargoyles emerge from some of the corners of the shop, bearing down on customers or those that enter. But as we go into the shop, we see a particular individual, the new owner. She seems somewhat rushed, somewhat tired and drained, and she is preparing for some new visitors. And she's currently bossing her ghoul around. Take it away.
That's not crimson, that is fuchsia. When they said crimson candles, they mean crimson candles, not fuchsia. Fuchsia is more towards a pink shade. Please go down to the Paint Depot store, get some swatches, and figure this out. Go away. Come back with crimson candles.
Look, my mistress, you can get the same effect if you just dip them in a diluted water solution. I've done this before with Graves quite a few times.
Yes, but Graves isn't here anymore, is it? It's him.
It always works with him. I'm sure it'd be fine. They won't notice the difference.
Okay, Nigel. Are you willing to explain to our two guests, which you've met before, why it doesn't work when it doesn't work? Or why not err on the side of caution?
Yes. In that case, madam, I shall fetch the
Get
spares. I think I have some spares downstairs. Some I've been keeping aside for a special occasion. I'm sure they will do. They will do.
Germans have a saying for this. Warum nicht gleich so? Which pretty much translates out to why not this to begin with? I'm wasting my time.
Actually, he responds back in German with a sort of a da or a confirmation and another sort of slight phrase. Ach, bitte. He starts to sort of mope behind as he walks on.
I thought so.
But then he actually, no role needed. I think that's fine. You've been with him for a while now, and he seems to be aware of suddenly where he's done that and gone, I shall fetch the candles. And I think after the period and things that have been happening to you and your paranoia, yeah, he's holding stuff back. He is definitely holding some bits and bobs back. You're not sure yet what, but you've been so busy and confused, you've not had time. But definitely, he's holding little facts, little fibs, half truths, half lies here and there. But this is the night. You're too busy for such things.
I haven't got time to worry about his porcupines.
And
I haven't got time to worry about his lies.
He'll proceed to continue. And I'm going to assume the shop itself is somewhat been closed, shut off. Mm-hmm. The windows, like the shutters have been put down. Where would you host this evening's events? In the shop front, in the office, or in the basement below?
I'm going to say the basement, to be honest with you.
Okay, there is that specific kind of seance area.
I would be using that.
Yeah, it's been somewhat refurbished. Again, not quite to the standard that Graves had it at, but it's you have this big round table, some chairs, and more secure, specific kind of occult books, more rare, more valuable sort of volumes that are hidden down here.
Because I definitely do not want to be disturbed.
Oh yes, this would be your personal collection. This would be a collection you wish anyone to see. And again, the table, of course, has been set up perfectly. Your ghoul has you get the feeling he has a similar knowledge as to your level to a certain point. He seems to get everything quite right. He gets the candles just set up right. He gets the matting quite right. And to describe the what the specific individuals who are coming this evening have requested, that the table's covered in this sort of blanket, and it's a specific kind of blanket that's been woven with all these kind of patterns, and it's a form of a sort of a Tibetan blanket almost. And it's from a specific sort of subgroup or sub religious cult that have sort of Tibetan origins. Let's simply call them a Tibetan sort of death sect or Tibetan death worshipping sect. That it traces back, but funny enough, you got this on eBay. You got this kind of quote, this sort of thing. They're kind of websites, all sorts of things. But of course, the work is of premium quality, but it's freely available. These kind technology. Of things. Yeah, again, modern technology. And you even ask your ghoul, where did you get such a fine woven? And he simply replies, "Oh, eShepherd or eBay." You know, one of these like cultural, quirky sort of websites. And you're probably sure that people have these on their floor in their kitchens.
Oh,
and they consider them quirky, and they don't quite understand the actual relevance of what the meaning of the depth of what these shrouds, these sort of woven apertures are. Anyway, he covers the table, this round table, with this quilt, these woven images in it. And the work is fine, the detail, it's like an endlessly mesmerizing loop of patterns. And I'm trying to think of the Tibetan, it's a sort of Tibetan sort of maze puzzles they do. It's very woven. Very interesting.
Mandala.
Yes, similar to a mandala, very similar to a mandala. And he sets up, of course, the candles, and he sets up the placings and the sittings properly. And he draws the necessary kind of diagrams and circles of protection around the floor. And yeah, he is similar level to you, very similar to level to you, to his understanding. And he's in a very good flow, as it were, as if he's been a bit out of practice, but he continues with this. And you observe this and you see this. And a few moments go by before I guess arrive. So again, thoughts and the feelings.
The initial thought is, again, confidence and curiosity. There's always that underlying thrumming heartbeat of wanting to better oneself, either through science or through the occult. That's just how the order works. It's just how this kindred works. The underlying current that is tugging away at the heartstrings is insecurity, as would be in any grand escapade of this kind of a matter, but I think perhaps shaken up and more fast flowing now that the incident with the syringe is over. Yes, she walked into a trap, but it didn't kill her. Maybe she's walking into another trap. Maybe she hasn't learned her lesson, but by the same token, there'll be something to learn here, even if it is her own limitations. So again, we must banish the concept of failure. We must banish the idea that we're being a tiny bit silly because we haven't got room for doubts right now. We really do not.
As
continue.
Yeah, as these thoughts go through your head, your ghoul will finish the setup. You'll finish the established work. And approaching, I believe I've performed correctly what they wished. It's very unique, occultish sort of ritual they're performing here. Is very, I think, African, with a slight hint of sort of Tibetan, non-aestheticism. It has a hint. It is very unique. I must say it's quite nice. It's quite refreshing to be back on one's game. It's been so long since a proprietor, a person of good merit in this shop.
Just looking at Nigel as he's babbling. What are you on about?
Nothing. I'm merely happy to be back in work.
So you don't want another night off?
Oh, please, if you allow me, could I witness what would occur? Graves was always quite particular, kind of. As soon as he mentioned Graves, his voice kind of stutters almost. He wouldn't allow me to see much of his work down here. I appreciate it very much if you would let me.
How much would you appreciate it?
I'm already obedient slave. I'd do anything, but what more can I give?
He's been with Maria for a while, so he probably knows. He'll probably be able to read the sarcasm in her voice. As she sort of leans in and goes, "I want you to rip your liver out and present it to me."
He kind of looks down and goes, "That'd be very complex. I could present my organ,
She'll
but
just pat him on the shoulder before he does anything studious. We'll work it out later. It's up to our guests in any case.
of course. Please ignore my excitement, mistress. I'm just glad of the situation. I've purchased the finest equipment for tonight, and I wish all well for you and your guests."
As do I. I'd like the house set once they're in. I'd like
Of course.
everything to be at 100%. Am I
He
clear?
rushes, he does. Yes, even as you say, he kind of makes things perfectly aligned, everything symmetrical and everything precise.
Oh, stop
Sure,
fussing.
yes.
I meant the traps.
Oh, yes. Oh, of course.
Any ritual acts as a beacon. Write that behind your ears, and there will always be something looking to be watching. And we don't want that, do we, Nigel?
Forgive my excitement, mistress. I shall be diligent. I shall be forceful. Any intruder that harms you, I will make them pay.
I like that sound of your voice, Nigel. You truly sound favorite. And she'll again just pat him on the head almost and be like, "But our guests are due to arrive."
And actually, as you kind of both are talking, and he kind of tilts her head up, and you hear sounds, you hear creeping noise, and you hear kind of a knock.
Gesture for Nigel to open the door.
He will walk up again because you're in the basement area at the moment. He will walk up the stairs, and again, of course, these stairs have a few traps, a few hidden sort of placements. As he skips and also goes, he'll walk towards the shop counter and he'll go beyond that towards the shop door. And as he opens the door, of course, it's nothing there, no one there. He kind of looks a bit confused. He steps out for a brief moment, and you can see his cold breath emanate from his body as the air outside is quite chilly, quite frigid tonight. And he'll pop back into the shop. He'll raise his shoulders, a bit confused, going, "I'm not sure." But as soon as he does this, the kind of room itself goes somewhat dim, somewhat darker. The light kind of crackles or blinks. And as it does, these two figures emerge in the shop suddenly, as if appearing out of nowhere, side by side. And these two figures look towards your ghoul. The loudest one of them sort of steps forward, going, "Ha ha ha! Greetings from the Cappadocia. We humbly accept offer an entrance to this haven.
At this point, let's just say that I've ascended the stairs as well, and sort of just wave Nigel away, and say, "Welcome back. Good to see you both in one piece, or two pieces, respectively."
As you observe them, it seems the Bo character, he suffered some injuries. He has a few marks, sort of, they've been healed. They seem somewhat now normal, but you see a few burn marks on his chest and on his sort of fingers. The rest of it's been covered up in leather. It seems he has suffered some damage to a point. But he will look towards you and gesture. Bo and Lee of the Cappadocians only ask to present a completed task and humble refuge, respite in your haven is the token accepted fully.
Simply wave as in "You're welcome."
We acknowledge your humbleness, and we shall treat your haven as our own. And with that, he gestures for his sister to emerge. Who, again, she's a lot shorter than him, literally nearly half his size almost. And she walks beside him and goes, "We have completed our task. We have returned to complete our bargain."
Then all that remains is for you to see whether my setup is adequate. Please follow me.
And as you she will follow, and Bo will be behind her. Again, he always, you don't need to roll for this, it's just, he's always there as that kind of protectorate. The individual seems to hover around her constantly. And as you go towards the basement, or go towards the ritual area, she kind of sort of feels the walls and feels the area around her. And she's very about physical touch. Everything about her, she feels as much as she can as she walks around.
Mm-hmm.
And she does this. She kind of even places her hands upon her face and goes, "Has everything been prepared? I hope my requests were not specific."
They were specific. However, I'll be disappointed in you if they were not. Please, this way.
Of course, of course. This is Graves' chamber, isn't it? I smell it is of him, but it is changed. You have made it your own. I respect that of a woman, to make once what was man's hers.
We're not going to play the sexist thing, just simply say, "So you knew him?"
He knew many. As an occultist, as a wanderer of the world beyond. He was infamous in many a dealing. We are just merely happy that someone has taken his place, taken his role in London.
No one can ever truly take Graves' role, and you know it, being that he was so infamous.
You still have time. You have still much raw potential. And she kind of, as if she does want to kind of touch your face, but if you kind of gesture or kind of push away, she will refrain.
I actually don't care. If she wants to give me a bonus tidbit, that's fine.
Oh, she if you don't refrain from it whatsoever, she will literally, just not even in the sense that she's embarrassed or rude, but just feel every aspect of you, touch your face and begin to sort of feel down your shoulder, then past your sort of right breast and your curvature of your hip, and then draw away to an extent that she's pleased, she's happy that you let her do that to a point that she's gained something. A few moments, her black kind of eye sockets that have these dim sort of lit eyes sort of lighten, and she just sort of smiles in this crooked tooth manner, but then proceeds for you to gesture to go down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, due to the role, she's happy at the moment. She's very happy. So she'll proceed and allow you to the ritual room. And as described earlier by the ghoul, it has been set up. The area has been lit by the candles. The protective rites have been drawn. The chalk and salt has been splashed and established under them properly. The runes of warding have been placed. And I think due to your ghoul, due to your abilities, it's very good. Very good.
Mm-hmm.
The Cappadocians amongst you are quite impressed.
No more to say other than simply just gesture. I hope this is as you envisioned it.
Bo's quite quiet at the moment. He remains quiet for a while. But Elle just looks and goes, you have done well. I'm most impressed. You have made a very good first impression. The runes have been drawn correctly, the markings placed rightly. I believe we are ready to begin. If you wish to continue our deal, we have recovered the skull at some cost, and we are happy to leave it in your care until we have performed our ritual, of course.
Then let us proceed.
I must hint some warning. Bo will be performing the role of our protector. He will ward off the spirits, the entities that wish to disrupt us. I shall host as the guide, the medium of the ritual. You shall be the observer, the one who will witness, who will be commune, a part of the ritual itself. Yours is the biggest risk, of course.
No risk, no reward. A saying as true as time itself.
A saying as old as many a venture.
Does blood truly have to come into this? I find it distasteful.
Oh, forgive me. Such blood hatred. Merely pointing out old hatred.
Now there's a sort of a pondering look that momentarily comes over Maria's face, and she goes, "No, not hatred anymore, just indifference."
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that comes across. So she will look back in the sense, still much to learn, but you are so good for your age, so tasteful. But we shall proceed. You are aware of the risks. We shall perform the ritual. You will become the observer. We will be aware of what occurs. It is best you not mention our presence to the entity, to the individual you speak. We Cappadocians have history with this skull. We do not wish that history to be brought up tonight.
And so if the opportunity arises, is there anything you would like to know from it that I could bring back in a matter of information?
We are to perform a ritual of history, a ritual of past. We shall summon the spirit, the entity. You will have command over it. You will have force over it. And you will ask it of its last emergence, its last task.
How much
You'll
does
gather.
this creature know?
Such things are vague, such things are random in ritual. We can only be as precise as we can. But we wish to seek knowledge of what happened to the skull during the night of storms.
I'd
Whether
like
it
to
will
know
tell
that
you,
too.
whether it will allow you to be aware of it is up to you. And the risk is up to you.
So be it. Let's get it done.
When after this task we shall consider our deal done. You will be left with the skull. You will be left with the task or bird of carrying it. And we will be even. Do we agree to such terms?
We are in agreement.
Very well. Brother, begin. And she kind of kneels before the kind of ritual area. She starts to kind of murmur to herself and rotate her head like up and down in a sort of emotional, kind of frantic kind of manner. The other individual, Bo, who's been kind of walking around the basement, looking around, scoping the area out, he begins to he gets a powder from one of his pouches, and he spreads this powder on his hands and on his face. And your kindred senses can pick up what this powder is. Your senses can tinker on it. And it's human bone, dusted human bone fragments. And he begins to edge it across his body, across his face. And he begins to hit himself, begins to sort of fortify himself almost.
Mm-hmm.
I did it. And as he does this, he seems to be pumping himself up into sort of a frenzy almost. As this continues on, she will murmur more and more, and her long hair sort of comes across downwards across her face to a point you can't see her anymore. And the candle will illuminate, and the circle will begin. And she kind of presents or offers for you to sit opposite her, opposite this ritual.
Shall do so.
And as you do so, she leans to her left. We offer to the sister of the West, fate, the living embodiment, the decider of death. We give thanks. Then she leans to the right. And as she does this, even you kind of follow it, almost hypnotically. And as she does this, even a sort of a wind emerges, and the candles kind of flicker as she does this, as she leans to the right. To the brother of the East, Lord of the underworld, we offer thanks to the decider of those that are dead. And then she kind of leans towards you. And as she looks up, you see these glaring eyes piercing through the sort of ragged, sort of dreadlock kind of hair that's just covering her face at the moment. There's gleaming bright eyes stare at you. And as they stare at you, she goes, and we give presents to death. The decider, the one that goes between worlds, the living and the dead. We ask his presence. We ask him to summon himself, to possess this humble vessel give way, give way, give way. And as she repeats this sort of give way, more words mutter, but they're in African or no Arabic or Egyptian. They start to murmur more and more, and she repeats this process. She keeps repeating this process, these words in different languages, in different phrases, in different, and it becomes to the point where it gets faster and faster and faster and faster, and the pace gets more and more and more and quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker, and it just repeats to the point where even you are quite mesmerized or hypnotized in the process until your head kind of spins and spins and spins until suddenly to a point where you kind of awaken, and all that you see before you is this ritual room, but it is empty. There's no one there. There's nothing there. There's only the sort of the table, the floor that is covered in this quilt, covered in these candles and these symbols, and that skull staring at you. This blackened skull covered in these glyphs, covered in this imagery.
The sound of Al's voice still sort of slightly ringing in the back of Maria's mind. Certainly the palpable taste of magic in the air. And snapping out of the reality, the dimension that just was, to this overlay, let's say. Seeing the skull, internally thinking, been a long time, Damien.
The skull, the skull doesn't respond or does anything, but a kind of a mist or smoke does start to emerge from the skull.
Mm-hmm. Still using the same name from the skull from last time?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Mm-hmm. Stand up from where she's kneeling, but not move. Got a feeling about ritual circles, and if you're placed somewhere, you're meant to stay there. Just sort of look at the skull and say, Zerback, long time. How have you been?
The skull doesn't respond. It doesn't do anything, but more smoke emanates around it and seems to cover the quilt, cover the sort of blanket that you're currently on. And yes, you're in a kind of protective circle, and there's an individual protective circle around you yourself that you're standing in. And nothing happens at the moment as you say this.
I'd like for you to speak with me.
And with that, the skull, again, you hear the ringing of the words that are spoken, and they seem to be in this repeated form in the background. That sound of, to the god to the west, we appease thee, to the brother in the east, we appease thee, to the death itself from the north, we appease thee. Keeps looping in the background behind you constantly. And as you say this, I wish to speak to you. The skull itself starts to spin, and as it spins, the blanket itself starts to spin with it. It starts to envelop and surround it, and it starts to get higher and higher and higher until this image, this figure kind of forms from the spinning. And it seems to have this hair that seems to wave out, seems to be holding the skull that is spinning. And it appears as this entity that's moving yet staying still at the same time, but it's staring at the skull. And it too has this kind of sort of skeletal features and these horns that appear above it. And it just seems to be spinning in front of you in circles, round and round and round.
And it's completely ignoring me.
It seems to be present. It seems to be there.
Mm-hmm. Well then, Nobody ever got anywhere by sitting quietly in the corner. Just sort of project out, and if it's possible, to sort of force my own energy in a way to shockwave over it, as to say, "Hey, I'm here."
Ah, well, yes. If you announce your beast, if you push your beast, now you have quite powerful beasts. You have a very potent beast plus your additional extras. You push yourself, just
Mhm.
in a way, just to be friendly, like I'm here, and even a bit of electricity kind of emerges and it kind of scatters around this figure. The electricity kind of forms up the quilt along the blanket and forms around the face of this entity. And it seems to just stop rotating. It stops in front of you. And it's holding the skull, the blackened skull, staring directly in its eyes. It doesn't seem able to avoid its gaze. And as it's just staring at the skull in front of you, its hand creaks and raises and opens, and as it crunches every fingertip, opens its palm to you.
Ooh, do I feel lucky today, punk? Nothing ventured, nothing gained. If the hand is there to take, I will take the hand.
You place your hand upon it, and its hand is vast, it's huge. And you come across as a child placing the hand of an adult to it in comparison. But as you do so, it grips your hand very tightly in between its fingers, its bony claw fingers. Like it nearly covers your hand and your arm almost. That's how big it seems, bigger as you kind of delve into it. To the point where you realize that actually you're small, you're tiny in comparison to this figure that grows larger and larger, to the point where you're only nothing but this small creature in its palm of its hand. And it kind of raises its hand up, constantly staring at the skull, but not at you. And as it kind of holds its hand up, it gestures to look to the pinnacle point of the spinning area, the spinning room. And as it holds you up, you will then emerge. You appear from like a shadow, from a form, a corner of a room, and you hear the sounds of violence. You hear the sounds of chaos, the sounds of kindred in the background.
This is what happened. Is this what you want to show me? 10 years ago, is this what happened? That's what I want to see.
And as you say that, this figure is just next to you. Again, staring at this skull, staring at this entity, this woven kilt, this sort of cloth surrounding it. And as it's staring at the skull, it just leans its bony fingers upwards and points towards where the sound is making. Every movement of this creature makes this cranky, bone crunching sound.
Look up towards where it's pointing.
And as it points, it leads you to an underground tunnel, underground area. And you see before you a room filled with kindred, with mortals, with blood. As you emerge, you appear there. You seem to just float there. And as you go and hover around the scene, you see these kindred all fighting. You see all these kindred diablerizing, eating, destroying each other, resurrecting each other. You see all this occur, and as you see beyond, you see this shadowy form of a figure, shadowy form of an individual. And he seems to be sat upon a sort of throne made of bones and skulls. And he seems to have these revenants, these half-bloods that have been chained to the walls next to him, surrounding him. And he just amasses this presence of the Diablerist. a young kindred that has devoured his way to power. The black veins pump through his face, through his beast alone. He is not one person, not one kindred, but many kindred made physical. This is the ultimate heresy of Diablerie, a person made of many who is now manifested in one.
And this is the cause?
The
This is
bone
him,
creature points towards like a flag, points towards this sort of broken, wavy flag, and of course it holds the hand, the symbol of the carnival party, the blood thieves and blood gang, the Diablos, the creatures of the Shard War, the ones that brought down the Night of Storms. And this seems to be their frenzy pit. This seems to be their gathering pit, their combat pit, recruitment pit almost. And as you observe all this and you kind of float across it, or float from it towards this Diablos, this creature that is sat upon this throne, and you see before you another ritual taking place.
As it shifts to another ritual taking place, but probably beforehand, the blood thief is pretty much identified. Maria will just sort of grit her teeth, or almost her fangs showing in frustration, goes, I know this part of the history, even if it's just hearsay. What caused it? What caused everyone to perish?
The bony creature that is sort of hovering behind you, again, never staring at you, staring at the skull, gestures. And as it gestures, its hand goes long and wide and places itself on the ground. And as it does, it shows and emerges another room. You seem to be teleported into another room that is more isolated, more dense, more wet, more decayed. And again, you see the prince, you see the Diabolist king sit upon his throne. And here, as he is sat there, you see before you a ritual that is drawn in blood chalk across the floor. A big circular ritual with many complex meanings and 9 intersective circles in between this circle. And as you kind of hover beyond, you seem to possess someone in the background observing this ritual taking place. And you hear it's a noise so loud, so powerful, but you cannot understand its meaning. But it's from the Blood Princes. The Blood Princes giving commands, giving orders. But these noises are about like loud whale song. They echo through you like water and pierce you as they are spoken. And as these messages are announced, you see Kindred bringing forth 9 small children. 9 small female children. They seem to present them in each of these circles surrounding this ritual. And as they all sort of place there, these children are terrified. These children are scared beyond belief, traumatized to a point where they cannot even comprehend what's going on. Younger, 9 to 10 years old at least, some are younger, and they are just sat there quite obedient, too terrified to cry, too terrified to make a noise. And as these 9 children are laid there, the creature will start to become more human-esque or more normal sized, and will start to emerge around them, or start to circle. Please, thoughts, feelings.
I'm going to have to thoughts, feelings in about 10 minutes because I have a cramp in my leg and I need to just quickly walk that out. So we're just going to leave it on the cliffhanger. I'm sorry.
No problem. I'm happy to keep going on for folks. Actually, for folks, please imagine this scene and the situation going on. as these continues. We'll be back in literally 2 minutes. Please keep hold. Events and things that I think are very exciting. Thank you for watching. Hold on.
Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. Human bodies can be so troublesome. Okay, thoughts and feelings. Let's go with thoughts and feelings. The 9 concentric circles and the 9 children. 9 is obviously a highly prized celestial number almost. You know, if you look at it through numerology, through history, throughout theology. So initially, pretty much what Maria's doing the entire time is just simply trying to look for patterns, looking for numbers, looking for symbols that she recognizes. 9, the number 9 she can recognize as something, but the ritual itself, I dare say she has no idea what's going on. When the children are brought out, a little reality sort of triggers in her mind. The ghoul girl that's now in Revenant City that she killed because she stole her pocket watch, she was referred to as the 6th of the 9 or something. Is there any resemblance?
As you kind of look, and I think, yes, due to your successes, we rolled this all earlier. This will count as the ones, one of the extra successes. You look to the room and you observe all the girls, and yes, they're quite different races, different cultures, different ages almost. But you see one of them, and it's the wide eyes, the black hair. Yes, definitely. This girl that you're kind of hovering behind or hovering through, and she even kind of looks to you, but seeing you as if a ghost almost. But this is definitely the individual that you had met at Treadwell's, the individual that you ghouled, the individual whose neck you broke. A very younger version, more innocent, less corrupted. But her features are so similar, so defined, and she looks horrified at what's happening right now.
I have no idea how much longer this ritual is going to go, so I'm just going to simply turn to my ethereal guide and go, what's going on here? What are they doing?
And as you do, you go towards your ethereal guide, and he seems to be hovering there in the background. No one seems to be aware of him. He's just there. It's a constant, it's a sort of focal point of this vision, this message. Then suddenly you hear more murmurs, more speech, and you see 4 individuals emerge, cloaked, hooded, towards the center of the circle. Now these hooded figures, one by one, reveal themselves. And as they do, you see the face of one individual. And I don't know if you had any contact with the bunny or the bunny's daughter, just as a quick question. No? Okay. So this individual reeks of that curse of the Nosferatu, definitely, and has that plasticky features. And she seems to be holding her hands and gripping them and in silent prayer, and as if summoning something or doing something. The second individual that you see seems to be this heavily bearded, heavily mad, sort of traced individual who seems to be just muttering to himself in a crazy, frenzied manner, just speaking aloud. At any point, have you gone to Treadwell's? Just as a side sort of note, in case I've forgotten. We'll take that as a no.
What hurt me?
Yes.
I live there.
Oh no, sorry, no, I'm saying Treadwell's. Sorry, I mean the Magician's Knob or Wizard's Knob. Sorry.
Yes, I have another knob.
This individual is recognizable. You have seen them before, definitely either there or has hung around there at some point. And the third figure, this is because of your extra success that you rolled earlier, you'll see this individual's face. The lady by the name of Cassandra, the prophet. And you'll recognize her. And there is a fourth person, but you are unable to see them. Something happens before you can see their face unveiled. But as this all occurs, as this all happens, you zoom in, you kind of spin. The room starts to spin. Again, like earlier, like before the ritual, it starts to spin and spin. The girls start to rotate. The girls that are imprisoned in their trap, they start to spin. And the summoners, as it were, in the middle of the ring start to spin, and you on the outer circle start to spin. And the room itself is becoming more hectic, more confusing. And as it all spins, you see before you the center point of this ritual, the center point of the room, and you see the black skull that was used earlier. The black skull is there, it is present, and you see it floating in the air. You see it as if something is coming out of it, as some presence, some sort of blackness, a red sort of covered blackness, that a shadow form that emerges from the skull and pours into these girls, pours into these individuals. And as it does so, it starts to choke them, it starts to corrupt them, and they start to crush and window and collapse. But at this point, you see one of the inner circle, one of the inner group, the sort of more plastic Nosferatu creature, stop suddenly. She jumps in between the spinning panels. She jumps in between the spinning platforms, and she manages to use incredible speed and strength to push her way through. And she grabs 3 of the children and sort of runs and rushes away. At this point, you see the blood thief in the background of the ritual crying out in anger and frustration and pure rage at this individual as she just speeds away, as she runs away as fast as possible. And at this point, you wish to proceed, you wish to follow her, you wish to see how this goes. But then this bony, clawed hand climbs on your shoulder, holds you back, pulls you back. And with this figure that's been holding you is pushing you. It's pushing you and drawing you closer into its gaze, closer to where it is. You're back into that sort of room. You're back into that circular motion. But this time it has its hand on you. Not on you, in you. It's a part of you. And it's drawing you closer and closer to its gaze. It wants to see you. It wants to know you. And reactions, thoughts?
Oh God, I hate it when this happens. It's actually my first in-character thought. What's the old saying? Stare long into the abyss, and sometimes the abyss stares back. Poignant, and it's true. Just trying to initially get its gaze away and just try to make mental note of the three girls that were taken. Do I recognize them? Was she one of them? What are the others doing? And just start bombarding this creature with questions. Wait, we haven't finished to see the end of the ritual. That kind of a thing.
Now, as you do this, the figure gets larger and bigger, and you realize it's no longer a person with another person. You are just this small individual looking up to a mountain, looking up to this huge landscape of a creature that its hair is blowing in the wind, or is the wind its hair? You are unsure, and closer you're coming to its gaze. You're coming to its understanding as it's looking down. An instant panic. Your beast is emerging. Everything about you is trying to get out, trying to escape. Do not be looked by this creature. Do not be seen by this creature. It is desperately speaking out and crying to you.
Mm.
And of course, this creature is transfixed by the black skull. It seems to be focused purely by the black skull.
Can I? Oh God, no! If it's transfixed by the skull, I don't want to untransfix it, but I also want to get out of here. My beast doesn't like this at all, I take it.
Oh no. Your beast, of course, is always 2 steps ahead of you in supernatural matters. It knows when to be afraid, knows when to run, knows when to flee, and when to feed.
And I'm just getting panic. So fight or flight has been activated in my beast. I don't suppose lashing out is a good thing right now.
I'm going to give you this because you rolled earlier and you got an exceptional success. So I'm going to happily give you this. Just a note to viewers, basically, this player had rolled 7 successes, I believe, in their dice roll to resist this. So as this skull looks at you, as it dawns upon you, a part of you wants to run. Part of you wants to run and flee. But another part of you is like, no, I'm going to stare into this gaze. I'm going to find my way out. I'm going to force or face this creature. And your beast kind of is excited by it. Your beast is kind of like, yes, this is what I want. This is what I want to do. We're going to die right now. We might as well die within glory. We might as well go out.
So my initial instinct of lashing out was correct, but no, we will.
No, it's correct. It's correct. It's just it's more. This is yes, definitely.
Yeah, no. You know what? Fuck it. And it's true. I mean, this is how the character would react in any case. I mean, she's looked into the mouth of hell. She's stared into the abyss. This is just another hurdle. Come on, bring it, bring it, bring it.
So you again, this figure is tall, as massive as a mountain, a landscape, and you get closer and closer towards the skull, towards the thing it's staring at. And the more you kind of accept it, the more you kind of just go for it. You realize, as if suddenly an illusion's been lifted to you, that this entity, this thing, has not been staring at the skull. It's not been holding the skull. It's been holding you. It's been holding your mind. It's been holding your head this whole time, staring at you, gauging you, trying to get into you. And suddenly you feel that sense of a presence, an entity vast in power, vast in influence and subtlety. It has been using its whole production. It's been playing it as long as possible to try to get into your mind, trying to get into your spirit, your body, your very essence. And as you are staring at it, it is staring at you, you're now staring back at it, and you're starting to delve into its mind, its thoughts, its feelings, its eyes. And this battle is commencing. And now you are realizing it, you are awakened to it.
I'm gonna ad-lib. There's a certain scar on her arm begins to just throb, just itch. It's like, just remember who you are. I don't know who I am, but I know that this thing is not getting into this head, and it can go away because we're going to turn these tables. I'm going to just mentally battle this thing because no, I'm not having it. I'm not having anyone else in my head. If anything else, this thing will be bound to me at the end of this. Or I'll be dead.
Due to your exceptional successes earlier, this war of the mind occurs, this battle, this dominance, the eyes, piercing eyes, the thought, dominating thought, the rape of one's essence, the control of a slave, a subordinate. This merges. And though this creature is vastly more powerful, vastly more superior in a certain spectrum, in a certain world, you are of the living world. You are still in the real world, in the world of material, and you have dominance above this creature. You're in a realm above this creature. You kind of realize you gain this essence, this power. And as this creature tries to trick you, to make you think you're in this other world, you are not. And it starts to get smaller. The mountain starts to shrink to a hill. The hill starts to shrink to a room. And you realize that it's just merely an individual battling with another individual. This illusion is pierced. And as you are dominating this mind, and as you are controlling this mind and fighting it, I'm going to happily allow you to issue one command.
Ooh, hello. Really?
You know, this is a big thinker. I'm going to pressure you on time on this one because that's how your character will be pressured. You have to think very quick. I will have a count in my head. If not, I'll go for a default option. Tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock.
I'm going to just command it to reveal to me who the fuck I actually am.
Ah, God damn it. That's a whole fucking other scene now. Okay, so yes, you demand it. And as you demand it, you are, I'll give you a big hint here. All right, so you are, it's compelled. It's like, you know, its eyes try to avert your gaze and it tries to move aside, and as it does, but your dominate comes across, your thought, your demonic ability to demand of this individual, this creature, an answer, and it has to answer. It has to. Your curse forces it so. And with this, you are recalled back. You are zoomed back to a room, a place, an area. You're not sure. You're looking up and down, and you can only recall or see three individuals, three people. You see before yourself in a room that's stone and cold, old. The pillars are somewhat Romanesque and dormant, and you see these three figures. One is Michael May. He seems to be muttering something, perhaps. If, when, potential. Another individual is, of course, the voice that you hate, the voice that you despise. You'd recognize that voice in any place, anywhere, anytime. Dear old mother. Then a third voice you recognize and see. And this is a voice of a teacher, a voice of a friend, a voice of a guide. The voice of one Dietrich Graves speaking. Very well. We'll see how far she goes. And with that, I think we will recall back, we will zoom back as everything forces back. And as we go back into the room of the ritual, back into the essence of the ritual room is on fire. Everything's been torn apart, the furniture's collapsed, everything's been shaken and torn apart. You see Elle, she is sat before you, still in the meditative pose, still sort of summoning. The candles all been knocked over and sort of lit off or gone out. You see Bo fighting or strangling or destroying a creature, spirit sort of entity that's emerging from the shadows. And he seems to be crushing it with his bare hands and ripping it apart into more lesser shadows that then scatter. And he seems himself to go on one knee to sort of recover from what's just fucking happened. And you emerge.
Well,
Yep.
if I'm back to this chaos, I'll just simply shout out to L. L, I'm back. End it. Just close the circle. Shut it down. Shut it down.
Shut it all down. And of course, this continues on for a few moments. Even the shadows get louder and bigger and wider, and more noises and sounds of creatures emerging. And of course, Bo tries to fend off some more, but they get bigger and bigger to a point when El just simply cries out. To the god of the west, we have proceeded. To the god of the east, we have proceeded. To the god of the north, death himself, we humbly request to end the tide. And with that, it just goes silent. The shadows kind of make this whirring sound and start to merge back into the dark corners of the room. The candles sort of light back up as if they were always lit. The room itself is still completely crippled chaos. Any valuable bookshelves all been destroyed, damaged, and
Dungeon for a reason.
yes. And actually, you know what was really bizarre? This is a later fact. The words have been eaten in the books. Like the words themselves have been devoured. They're partially there, partially not there. Something has eaten the knowledge kept in these books almost. But you are there and you are drained. You feel completely taken as if out of body experience. And you would have suffered quite a bit of damage, but you rolled very exceptional, so I'm happy for you to ignore that. And you feel very drained yet stronger, willed almost, as if you've been taken out of your body and placed back, and you are quite aware of it, and it's giving you a sense of astrobotic kind of feeling, a sense of oneself. And El just looks at you and just goes, now that was quite a journey.
How much of it did you witness?
All of it, my darling, all of it, as my right as the commune is.
How busted up is Bo? Could I take him on?
He's injured, definitely a bit of lethal damage, maybe one aggravated. He's some supernatural claws on him, but gauging him up, he is a tough individual, somewhat tough individual, but entirely up to you. Again, this is all.
I'll make it known that I'm gauging him up and then turn to El. A deal is a deal, I suppose.
If you want to walk away from this, I'm happy to walk away. If you wish for some secrets to kept hidden, well, that's a different arrangement.
We had a bargain. And so you should do with what information you have what you will. Knowledge is a priceless commodity. And what the three of us have seen, the three of us shall bargain in due time.
Of course, of course. Bo, fix yourself up. Let's go. We're done here. Bo kind of just sort of he fixes himself. You hear bones crack and lodge himself back in place, and you hear him healing. He's healing the damage. And of course, he has suffered like this sort of supernatural damage. This claw mark on his face that's worn away the bone, and he's trying to heal it, but he can't quite do it. But he kind of does his best to cover it, and just goes, well, "That was a wild one. I've not had an event like that since our sire performed the ritual in Egypt."
And who was the conduit then?
No longer along the living lines. He be dead. You've proven yourself quite worthy of the title of Grace's apprentice. We Cappadocians respect this.
For what it's worth, I respect you, the Cappadocians, for keeping your word to a T. It shows promise.
Our word is as strong as death's tide, always and constant. We will leave here now. Blessed upon your haven, Maria of the Order of Dracul. We will give word to the Cappadocians, Yar, Ivory, Holy.
I'd like to offer him some vitae as a thanks and a goodbye because hospitality, but I can't spare it right now.
Yeah, he doesn't. It's merely thanks. It's merely appreciation. You survived a ritual. Fair enough. You've done well.
I'll walk him out, see him obfuscate out, give him a wee little
They
bow.
they just actually, you know what? They just sort of go towards each other, and as they go towards each other, they kind of give you a nod of goodbye. They look towards the skull and wish you good luck to a certain point. And with that, they kind of vanish, or they just sort of slowly sort of shadow their way up the stairs and go into nothing and leave your shop. And you're left there alone for a few moments before your ghoul will arrive.
I don't know how else to describe it other than just being dead inside. There's just so much that it's too much. When they go, like, Maria will just wave off and fair night and good night and all the rest of it. And just sort of stand there, staring at a blank wall, hands at her sides, just going, what? What?
You're just left there with this skull staring at you in the center of this ritual.
Looks like it's you and me again. Promise I won't put you in the fridge this time.
And with that, I'll give you just one last moment as you look to the skull, and as you say this, you look about the ritual line, the circle, the symbols that emerge from this ritual, and it has that same similar feel to the ritual that's performed in your vision. But the circles changed, and actually you see the circles, the 9 circles, they've all been filled in except for one.
Filled in with what?
Just blackness.
I'm going to say that that's a hint that there's just one left. Well then. Something to think about other than my own self-pity. Damien, we have work to do. fold up the ritual towel because I remember touching it. It's not a good thing. And then just, tuck it under the arm, back up to the study. Pretty much just breezing past Nigel and say, if you dare to sweep up in there, it'll be your skin on a flagpole. Understood?
And Nigel, again, he's somewhat cowering in the corner of the shop, actually, because all the weirdness that was happening down below, the noises, the strangeness. And actually the shop itself is somewhat chaotic. The books have been chucked off the shelves, the desk has been damaged, so the stairs kind of crumpled in. It's insane sort of poltergeist kind of activity that's been happening. But he just looks at you and just nods, and just goes, "Oh, of course, madam. I will ensure everything is fine. Do I need to fetch a rug for any bodies?"
No, we're good. Tonight we're good.
Oh, of course, madam. I shall ensure things are sorted for tomorrow.
Stop stammering. It doesn't suit you.
Of course, madam.
See to the shop. How long till dawn? I have work to do.
He was there for quite some time. At least 2 hours.
That still leaves me 3.5. Oh well, ring the dinner bell at 3. I'll need an early night. Got a big night tomorrow.
Of course, madam, of course. I shall attend to everything, and he kind of tidies the whole shop up and begins to just clean everything to make sure everything's prepared, ready for tonight's next eventful activity. And I will be rolling for you because this is where the scene happens. Hold on 1 second. Just one more dice roll, and then we'll happily end scene.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it's a frigging 8. Okay, so oh god, that might be all of it. Oh wait, it's 9. Yes, as you kind of you go back to your haven, you go back to try to sleep, you try to get the area, and try to, but then suddenly that force, that energy, that thing that whatever Graves has done to you, the syringe has done to you, the electricity starts. And I think because of the event of the ritual itself, you've pushed yourself too much. And you've allowed yourself to become quite weakened, and because of that, you suddenly go to knees, and you suddenly electricity bursts from your fingertips, from your face, from your mouth, and this lightning kind of envelops the room, and you suffer. It's 8 on the dice roll +1 because of previously 9 bashing damage, as this lightning just emerges from your body, from your very essence, and ignites the room. And I think we'll happily end scene there to allow you to deal with those factors. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed the show. Good night.
Nighty night.